As a concerned American citizen, I have to be honest, I shouldn't have to wake up every single morning as someone in my early 20s and watch the President of the United States struggle to form a coherent sentence. The presidency is supposed to represent strength, clarity, and leadership, but lately it feels like we're watching a never-ending contest of who can embarrass the country more, the man who can't finish a sentence or the man who can't stop lying. Today, we need to have a serious conversation, not about partisanship, not about right or left, but about what's happening to American leadership and how it's turning into a dangerous performance. Let's start with what just happened this week. Donald Trump spoke to U.S. service members in Norfolk, Virginia, ahead of the upcoming 250th anniversary of the Navy. This was supposed to be a unifying event, a celebration of American strength. But what we saw instead was another campaign-style rally dressed up as patriotism. In his speech, Trump told our Navy that we have to take care of this little gnat called the Democrats. Let that sink in. He stood in front of American soldiers, men and women who swore to defend the Constitution, not a political party, and told them that half the country is an insect to be taken care of. Now you might think that's just one offhand comment, but it's not. It's part of a pattern. Every time Trump speaks, he blurs the line between serving the country and serving himself. He turns our military into a stage for political vengeance. Imagine for 1 second if President Obama had done that. Imagine if he stood in front of service members and said, "We have to deal with those Republican gnats." There would be outrage on every conservative network for weeks. But when Trump says it, the same people call him authentic. They call him bold. They say, "Oh, that's just Trump being Trump." No, that's Trump being dangerous. Because right after that line, he tries to goad the crowd into booing Barack Obama. He literally says, "Barack Hussein Obama," pauses, waits for a reaction, and the soldiers stay silent. That silence says everything. The military is not supposed to cheer or boo political figures. They understand the responsibility they carry, but Trump doesn't. He sees every setting as a rally, every institution as a prop, and every audience as a mirror for his own ego. And here's the hypocrisy. When Biden says something like, "MAGA Republicans are dividing the country," Fox News calls it a dictatorship. They say he's being unpresidential or divisive. But when Trump calls Democrats gnats to their face in front of the U.S. Navy, suddenly that's just tough talk. Let's be honest, it's not tough talk, it's toxic talk. It's the kind of rhetoric that chips away at democracy from the inside, because once you convince people that your fellow citizens are the enemy, it's only a matter of time before they start believing that violence is justified. But that wasn't even the wildest part of the speech. At one point, Trump starts talking about 9/11. He says, "Please remember, I wrote about Osama bin Laden exactly 1 year before he blew up the World Trade Center." Now, where do we even start with that? This man, who can't remember what year his own presidency started, is taking credit for predicting 9/11. He rambles on for another minute, saying, "I said 1 year before to Pete Hegseth. I said 1 year before. It's in the book I wrote," whatever the hell the title was, but I wrote about it, and he genuinely believes this is true. But it's not. The book he's talking about was ghostwritten by someone else in 2000. There's one line, a single sentence, that references Osama bin Laden as a dangerous figure, and that was after the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. Every intelligence agency in the country already knew who bin Laden was. That's not foresight. That's not prophecy. That's plagiarism with a memory problem. And yet he stands on stage, taking credit for predicting the deadliest terror attack in American history. This isn't confidence. It's delusion. It's cognitive decline. The kind where you can't tell the difference between memory and myth. But the crowd claps. The crowd cheers. And that's the scariest part, because they've stopped hearing the words. They only hear the voice. They only hear the myth of the strong man who tells it like it is. And then just when you think it can't get more absurd, Trump says, "We won everything in between World War I and World War II. Everything in between." What exactly did we win between 1918 and 1939? There wasn't a war in between those two, but Trump doesn't care. He just keeps going. "We went woke then, too," he says. They changed the name from the Department of War to the Department of Defense. He's He's genuinely implying that the word defense, the idea of protecting rather than attacking, was an act of political correctness. He wants to bring back the Department of War because in his mind, everything before woke was glorious. Everything after it is weak. This is not leadership. This is nostalgia for an America that never existed. And I know people will say, you're just being dramatic. Trump jokes a lot. But here's the problem. Every time he says something outrageous, we're told it's just a joke. When he calls for terminating the Constitution, it's a joke. When he posts images of Chicago being invaded by the Department of War, it's a joke. When he says he'll target political opponents, it's just Trump messing around. At what point do we stop laughing and start listening? Because history doesn't repeat itself with people wearing swastikas on their sleeves. It repeats itself when people stop taking words seriously. Every single day there's a new kind of scandal, a new type of Watergate. But America has become numb. We scroll past chaos like it's just another post on the timeline. And here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. If Joe Biden had delivered that exact same speech, stumbling through names, bragging about predicting 9/11, misremembering world history, calling half the country gnats, Republicans would be screaming for the 25th Amendment right now. But when Trump does it, it's patriotism, it's energy, it's America first. No, it's not. It's America divided. This is not about left or right anymore. It's about sanity versus chaos. It's about whether truth still matters in a world addicted to lies. And if you're listening right now, whether you voted for Trump, Biden, or didn't vote at all, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. If a friend or a relative spoke like this every day, if they lied, contradicted themselves, and bragged about things they didn't understand, would you trust them with your house keys, your kids, your country? Because that's what's at stake here. When leaders lose their grip on reality, democracies lose their grip on truth. And when truth dies, nations follow. So yes, this is 25th Amendment territory. This is not normal, and pretending it is, just because it's entertaining, is how democracies fall. If you care about America, not as a party, not as a brand, but as an idea, then you have to start calling this what it is: unfit leadership disguised as strength. And until we start expecting better, we're going to keep getting worse. If you appreciate honest, unfiltered conversations like this, make sure you follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more than you know. I'm grateful for every single one of you watching. Stay informed, stay grounded, and as always, I love you all, and peace